Hey guys, it's Sebastian here with a basic guide on how the Gellenduo FTK works and why it is optimal in Pendulum Magicians. In order to achieve an FTK, you need to either deal with your opponent's life points completely or just create a loop that burns endlessly. But either way, you need to do enough burn damage where you can win the game within the first turn. And that's an FTK, which is why it's an abbreviation for first turn kill. The Gellenduo FTK is one that does loops damage endlessly by exploiting the game mechanic which allow effects to still activate even if they would be negated, such as activating Dante's effect under skill drain. And now Gellenduo has 3 effects, but only the second one is relevant to this. The one that says, if you take any damage, destroy this face-up card. This is important because of the lack of the word can, meaning this effect is mandatory and must always activate when triggered. Which means it is something that we can force a loop with, and the opponent can't stop it. And then if we can loop it, we can create infinite damage, and that's where Red Eye's Flare Metal Dragon comes into this, which Flare Metal's effect is why this card has Etsy's material. Each time your opponent activates a card or effect, inflict 500 damage to your opponent immediately after it resolves. This means that we have something that we can burn, and we have something that responds to the burning, and it's stuff that can be looped together. And now all we need is to find a way to give the opponent Gellenduo, and also to negate its effect so it doesn't destroy itself. And so this is where Summon Sorceress is really important, because not only does she meet the need of being able to give the opponent Gellenduo, but she can also negate its effect, which stops Gellenduo from killing itself. Because Summon Sorceress allows you to negate the effects of the monster that you summon from the deck, and you can summon Gellenduo from the deck to your opponent's zone, which gives them Gellenduo and negates its effect. And now what we need now is a fairy monster that we can get for Summon Sorceress to target, so that we can summon Gellenduo. And an extra deck fairy monster is easiest because it's something we can just grab out the extra deck. So what we need is an easy to summon fairy monster from the extra deck, Flare Metal and Summon Sorceress, which creates the setup that we need for the loop. And then after that we need something that actually starts the loop. So anything that does burn damage, Agave Dragon is a simple one. Because he's extra deck access, you can also use the fairy monster and Summon Sorceress to make Agave Dragon together, because Agave is a link 4, and yeah. But this means that we need a dragon. So if we were to make our fairy Summon Sorceress target a rank 6 Etsy's monster, that allows us to go into Gaia Dragon the Thunder Charger, which is a dragon which we can then use to link with Summon Sorceress into Agave Dragon, and that guarantees a dragon in our graves to burn for the damage and start the loop. And then an easy rank 6 fairy monster is Beatrice, so that's where she comes in, is that she's a rank 6 fairy monster that we can use with Summon Sorceress and to make Gaia Dragon afterwards. And so we have created a scenario we need to reach in order to FTK, and in a simplified state, so we need a Summon Sorceress, Beatrice and Flare Metal, which in a simplified state we need to have a link 3, 2 level 6s and 2 level 7s in order to FTK. And so there's a separate build which I saw a while ago that did this and got, I think, 17th in some random regional in America. However, the deck seemed incredibly suboptimal, and it seemed to suffer whenever it didn't open FTK, and it didn't open the FTK that consistently when I was testing it. And so this is where Pendulum Magicians come into the equation, as the deck is good for achieving exactly what we want to achieve, which is spamming level 6s, 7s and a link 3. Because normally you would make Cypher Metaltron, but you can just make Summon Sorceress instead. Which meant that most of the deck for the FTK, then we can just play Pendulum Magicians and just make a few little changes to have the FTK. And so where we're not invading on the actual deck space while still being able to FTK, and we're not having to go above 40 cards to put in an FTK engine. So we still have our original deck of Pendulum Magicians, whilst also having a very small FTK engine. And then, and whilst it's very hard, if not impossible, to FTK if you get hand trapped or disrupted, that's where the Pendulum Magicians are great, because if you get hand trapped, you can just resort to playing Pendulum Magicians, because hand traps don't hurt like actual magicians too much. And like, yeah, so we have backup which we can fall back on if we get sort of if we get disrupted and lose the FTK, or like if we just don't simply open the FTK, we can just make Pendulum Magicians. And so we have what we want to achieve, our win condition, and also a deck core to try and achieve that win condition. And now all we need to do is find a way to make Summon Sorceress in Pendulum Magicians, because we want to be able to use Electromite because it's such a big advantage and it gives us a massive boost. But then we have an issue of Electromite being Psychic and the rest of the deck being Spellcasters. So this is where Metaphor's Full Flame comes in, which can be 1/1 to avoid bricking, because Electromite can search it out and put it in the extra deck. And Full Flame is a level 7 Psychic, which is important for two reasons. As firstly, it's a Psychic, so we can use it with Electromite to make Summon Sorceress. And secondly, it is also a level 7, so it can be used to make Odd Eyes Absolute Dragon if we cannot FTK and have to set up negates instead. Full Flame having a scale of 8 is also very beneficial, because it's a scale 8 monster and there's no drawback for using it in the Pendulum zone. And another card I've sort of added to this, which isn't usual in Pendulum Magicians, is Destrudo, the Lost Dragon Vision, which this card we can use, we can dump to the grave with Beatrice effect, making it really accessible, and then it makes Odd Eyes Meteor Burst Dragon, which can summon a level 7 Pendulum monster from the Pendulum zone to make Flare Metal with, such as Supreme King Gate 0. And then this enables more hands to be able to FTK, as it meant that we have more options to make a rank 7. And so all we need now is a rank 6, the ability to make a rank 6, and then the ability to make Meteor Burst, and having a level 7 scale, and that's the FTK as well. And so now we have a Magician core with Gellenduo, Destrudo and Full Flame added in, and what we need now is to make Electromite before we use our Pendulum Summon, which is important because we have to summon Full Flame, and we won't be able to summon Full Flame if we've used our Pendulum Summon already. And so it's really vital that we open sort of Electromite turbo cards, so we use stuff like the Darkroom engine, Mythical Beast engine, Chronograph engine, and then I've thrown in 2 Abyss Actor Curtain Raisers to help. And then Chronograph and Mythical Beast, so Chronograph Sorcerer and Mythical Beast Jackal King are both level 6s, which is another important thing, as it makes making Beatrice easier. And then also Time Gaze is level 3 and can be summoned from Harmonizing Magician, which gives us another way to make Meteor Burst Dragon, which is another way to make Flare Metal. And another thing is that instead of using Dragon Pit Magician, I'm using Shanky Magician. As if we open Gellenduo, it's a really awkward hand, because normally you can't FTK if you open Gellenduo, because you have to. Because if you were to give your opponent Gellenduo, it would be Summon Sorcerer summon it from your hand, which it doesn't negate its effect. But Shanky is able to negate a light monster's effect, so we can use it to negate Gellenduo if we need to. And then he's also a level 7, which we can then use to make Flare Metal. And then I'm not sure like normal standard Pendulum builds, but like 1 in 3 Pendulum core, as it can sometimes dump Darkroom, but mostly as it can search out 2 Pendulum Magicians, it gives us access to Shanky if we need a level 7, it gives us Oath Dragon Magician if we need a level 6. But no Dual Disadvantage, because that card is awful and it makes us lose to draw, and why would we have a card that makes us just lose to draw when we can actually FTK through it? And now other important things, it's very important that we make Electromite before we Pendulum Summon. And so I max out on as many Dark Rooms as I can, so 3 Dark Room, 3 Dragon Shrines and a Furthest Burial, and then also 2 Gate Zeros, because it's always nice to sort of benefit from summoning Dark Room, and also seeing Gate Zero is really important if you want to use Meteor Burst Dragon. And then that's another important reason why we really want Dark Room. And then Mythical Beast engine is nice, and so is the Chronograph engine. And so Curtain Raiser I put at 2 instead of 3, even though it goes against sort of my idea of wanting to get as many turbo cards, and that's sort of because it does conflict with the Darkroom engine. You can just summon Darkroom then normal summon Curtain Raiser, but I know the deck is 40 cards with it at 2, and there's nothing I would cut for Curtain Raiser, though it does conflict with Darkroom, etc. So now we have sort of our main deck, which we've optimized to open as many hands to FTKs as possible, while still giving us a whole Pendulum Magician deck to play with if we can't FTK, or if we've been hand trapped and have to resort to other plays. And so now we need to look at the extra deck, which the space is so open, like it was actually hard thinking of cards to put in apart from the obvious stuff. So like obviously we need Heavy Metal Force Electromite, Summon Sorceress, Beatrice Lady of the Eternal, Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon and Agave Dragon. So that was a good starting point of what we needed. And then we needed ways to make the FTK more consistent, which Odd Eyes Meteor Burst Dragon helps with, as it just makes making rank 7 incredibly easy. And at that point there was no reason not to put the rest of the Odd Eyes package in, so I've also put in Absolute Dragon and Vortex Dragon. And then and as I mentioned earlier, we want to confirm a dragon monster in our grave, so there's Gaia Dragon the Thunder Charger to overlay on Beatrice, because that's a free dragon in the grave which we don't need to do anything for. It also means that we don't lose to Ash on Beatrice, though I don't know why the opponent wouldn't Ash Summon Sorceress. It's just whatever. It's just having Gaia Dragon is fine, because it makes it confirms a dragon in the grave, whereas if you were to use Beatrice effect to dump Destrudo, which you sometimes need to do, you would not have a dragon in the grave. So Gaia Dragon is really important. And then the rest of the extra deck is just whatever. Like I've thrown in Abyss Dreader, Cannon Gorgon, Evil Storm Nightmare, Norito and Zephyr Metaltron, and then as a joke I put in Nat Beast because it's funny and I like Nat Beast. And I sort of made a joke of putting Dragon Pulse Magician and Glow Up Bulb in that side deck. And yeah, the extra deck space is really loose. Thrift Gaming is an idiot for saying it's tight. It's really not. You could want Exeter Knight if you don't want to run Nat Beast. Like, I'm just thinking, Exeter Knight isn't even that good. There's not really much else. There's not really much else you can put in that you'd want. And so we sort of now have a main deck and an extra deck built for optimizing FTK while still giving us easy access to making multiple negate. And so we sort of have the possibility of either FTKing, or if you can't FTK, making 2 or 3 negate and other disruptions. And sort of like, most of the time you just need a hand that makes Electromite before you Pendulum Summon. And those hands generally ought to tend to be able to FTK, but it's really complex. Like the actual sort of interactions that you need to do, the actual sort of plays that you need to make are quite complex in my opinion. And so and there's just so many ways to achieve the end goal. But there's also so many ways to mess up achieving the FTK. And a minor misplay can cost the ability to FTK, so it's really something that you need to plan out and think about. It's just with practice and experience, you get better at the deck. It's just sort of like, it's hard to learn the combos, and it's sort of hard to give examples because there's so many ways to go into it. There's pretty much there's pretty much any hand that makes Electromite before you Pendulum Summon is fine. There's some obviously really brick hands don't work, but all you need to do is make Electromite before you Pendulum Summon, and then to have access to rank 6 and rank 7 plays, which is incredibly easy in Pendulum Magicians. So it's sort of like, it's like playing standard Pendulum Magicians, except you're always going to be dumping Metaphor's Full Flame with Electromite effect, and then your goal is to make rank 6 and rank 7. Instead of making Norito and Vortex, you're making Beatrice and Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon, and that's sort of like the FTK is simple at that point. Where you look at it that way, you're also trying to make Beatrice instead of Norito, and you want to make Flare Metal instead of Vortex Dragon. But if you're not able to go to the FTK, obviously go for Norito and Vortex. But yeah, and at that, like that, this has been the guide. Some of you have asked for it, so I thought to make a video on it, and sort of like, I don't know, the deck's kind of easy. Once you get used to it. And I think that will be it for today. So see you all later, and I hope you have a good time FTKing everyone at your locals.